Welcome to the Exploring Ways to Wellness podcast, where we investigate different approaches to well-being. Have you ever felt stuck in patterns of anxiety, self-doubt, or limiting beliefs? Well, today's episode introduces a fascinating technique that might just be the key to unlocking emotional freedom. I'm sitting down with Emma Starling, an EFT practitioner and master trainer who's transformed her own life through emotional freedom technique, a powerful healing approach that combines ancient acupressure principles with modern psychological understanding. Imagine being able to reduce stress and process difficult emotions by simply tapping on specific parts of your body while speaking targeted, compassionate statements. That's the essence of EFT, a technique that bridges the gap between your body's natural healing responses and your mind's ability to process complex emotions. Emma's remarkable journey from struggling with long-term anxiety to becoming a well-respected EFT trainer offers a compelling glimpse into how this technique can create profound personal transformation. So, whether you're a skeptic or someone seeking new ways to manage emotional challenges, this conversation promises to open up a whole new world of personal healing. So get comfortable and let's dive into the transformative world of EFT. I am thrilled to have Emma Starling with me today. We actually met when I was dipping my toe into energy work for the first time. And I am very proud to say she then went on to become my trainer and mentor in EFT. So from that perspective, Emma is an expert and we'll be sharing some links to things at the end. But for this podcast, she's going to be sharing some of her personal experiences along her journey with unconventional techniques as her way of accessing wellness. So thank you, Emma, for being with us. It would be lovely if you could just start by giving a little bit of background, how you got started.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah, for having me. It's so lovely to be here. I love what you're doing with this. My journey with all this, if I take it right the way back, started with finding a chiropractor when I had a pulled shoulder, aged 16, I think, 17, and then reflexology shortly after, thanks to my sister. And I completely was smitten. I'd had anxiety and depression looking back from about 12 or 13, been quite a hormonal teenager. Nothing seemed to work. Family didn't particularly understand, because it wasn't the thing. And so I fell in love with how I felt when I did these different techniques that I'd not heard of before. My first reflexology session, I fell asleep and drifted off somewhere blissful. And I was like, oh, I'm doing that again. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then 30 odd years later, I've just been completely obsessed ever since then. And I got into EFT probably about, 14, 15 years ago, maybe. And it was because of said stuff, that I'd kind of dragged through my life with me, if you like, all the anxiety and the depression. And in sort of 2004, 2005, that all converged and I had some time off work on sick and I had counselling and I had antidepressants. None of it worked for me personally. Some of the counselling did, but the antidepressants made me feel worse. And I thought, I really need to find something. And then a few years later, I came across a lady called Kim Ibrick Jansen who was tapping on cravings for chocolate. And I went, oh, I think I need to try that. So I tried that. It stopped my cravings. And then I found the tapping solution about weight loss and then one about money. Tried that and went, oh, this is too good to be true. Found a trainer, trained like a month later. And then just in the first session, about an hour and a half in, I kind of went, oh, yeah, this is what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
It was like
Amazing.
that.
Yeah. I can actually really relate to that. And if listeners have heard the first episode, I've mentioned the same thing kind of came across me with EFT. I was like, this seems a bit too good to be true, but it feels wrong not to share it because everyone should be having this experience or have access to this kind of experience. You mentioned that your family weren't kind of into that way of looking at things or way of approaching things. How
Mm.
did you find you approached kind of that more skeptical view of the world?
Um, I tried for a number of years with people who were skeptical to try and explain it and try and convince. And then for people who feel safer in the mainstream, I sort of realized, you know what, that's your journey and that's perfectly fine. It's
Yeah.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I found a way to kind of just not talk, I guess, to, more to family and friends who were skeptical. But then as my research and I suppose experience with EFT training and my client base and things like that grew, what I found was that the way to explain it that really settled with me was about the stress response and the amygdala and how the sciencey bit of how it actually kind of works in the body. Because what I was finding was the skepticism came from a place of, seeing it on YouTube and reading about it on Wikipedia. Don't, because it's an awful write up. It's not true at all. But
I
it
did doing research for this. I did kind of have a look at Wikipedia and I was like, who's written this?
Yeah, it's awful. It doesn't do it any justice at all, and so the skeptics have all basically read Wikipedia, gone up and poo-pooed it as a pseudoscience, peddled by snake oil merchants and all these things. And it really isn't. It's rooted in science. And so the more that I grew, the more I talked about it from a scientific perspective, the more I could see people's pennies dropping and going, oh, well, I feel stressed. Oh, yeah, I do that. Okay. And so I stopped trying to prove and kind of like persuade
Yeah.
and just went, okay, cool. And led by example and like showed the difference in me in mood because my anxiety literally disappeared after about 2 months of doing it. It just, I
Okay.
didn't even work specifically on it and it just disappeared. So I think that's it. It's show, don't tell. And it's explain it in a way that people's internal like light bulb goes, oh, and that was that really.
Seems to be this kind of barrier that goes up, isn't there? Is something slightly different. And
Yeah.
certainly my experience has been there almost ends up being this internal conflict of I feel I need to justify it. I'm a very logical person. I'm very kind of I need to be able to justify something. And at the same time, I know it works. I'm not totally sure how.
Yeah.
And does it actually matter? Yeah. Do you know
That's
what I mean?
works then really doesn't, does it? Surely. But
Yeah, as long as
yeah.
it's not having negative side effects, it's not having, that degree of risk
Yeah.
involved.
Mm,
It's kind of almost, well, go with it.
mm.
And there are studies out there, aren't there? There's, well, hundreds of studies now that have been done. So the evidence is there if you look for it, as much as
Yeah.
the skepticism is there if you look for it. So,
Absolutely. And I can give you some resources in terms of like good websites and reliable places that do scientific gold standard studies and stuff if people want that. But yeah, there is a huge amount of particularly in the last 10 years, there's a lot of research been done by some key figures in the industry, psychologists, psychotherapists, people of high standing, very well respected, have come into this now. And so that carries a lot of gravitas. But I very much say to people, look, if it feels good, then that's what counts. But I think in society, we're very much trained to be in our heads, aren't we? To be
yeah.
problem solving, to analyze things, to be rational and sensible and all of that good. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But sometimes that can dull that connection to your sort of inner yes or no as to whether this is the right thing for you. So don't judge yourself if you are looking at this and going, not sure. That's normal. Like I was like that too,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, are there any specific memorable experiences that you have through your journey of kind of trying these things out, or even with the EFT? And
Gosh, yes, lots and lots. So I think really the first one was what I've since coined my holy cow moment was in my first actual EFT training session when I was training to be a master practitioner. We started practicing in a pair and I was taking this lady through a round of tapping and I don't know where it came from. It was like I always get what I call downloads. So it's like I kind of almost hear inside of my head what I need to do next, but it's not
oh,
really my own voice. So I probably sound like a total weirdo now, but that's how it happens. And I had this thing to bring in butterflies and to help and to ask this lady to say, feeling it floating away like butterflies. And I didn't know why. And I said that, she repeated it and she just lit up and her
Wow.
shoulders dropped and the energy just went, "Ugh," and her face relaxed and she just went, "Wow, you're good." And that it was like the first time I'd ever done it. And I thought, if it's this easy,
Yeah.
I just I couldn't explain it, but I just loved it. And then there's so many personal ones, but probably the biggest and most recent one for me was I'd carried around quite a lot of debt. So from university, built up debt because I had to support myself. And then I liked having a Next card and various other things. Anyway, it mounted up and mounted up. And when COVID hit, I had a big house up in Northumberland and I made the decision. I was umming and ahhing about selling it and coming home to be with family. And I did some tapping and some energy work. I made the decision literally 10 seconds after that, got my yes or my no, made the decision, signed the document for the estate agents, put it in the folder, sealed it up, ready to go. And I kid you not, the next morning I had a cash offer, sold my house, cleared my debt, bang, gone. Like,
Wow.
just, it was unbelievable. And that proved it to me beyond a shadow of a doubt because I was, yeah, no, don't know what to do. And I was in massive inner conflict about
Yes.
it. And as soon as you kind of calm that stress when you're thinking about something, you come back to center, you get that clear yes or a no. And when you're in alignment with that decision, stuff just kind of goes bip, 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 like a little Tetris puzzle. Bang, got what I wanted. And then some actually, because they offered me 17.5 grand more than I thought we were going to get. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Fantastic. And are there any kind of specific challenges that you've found along the way as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think honestly, there's little challenges like um, helping people feel confident with what to say. That's probably the biggest one. If I'm teaching
Yeah.
someone, showing someone, the reason people often don't do it on their own is because they don't know what to say and they feel like it's got to be this perfectly scripted thing. And it really doesn't. So that's kind of a small bit. But I think the biggest thing with, if I'm looking at this, it's kind of business, but it's very personal as well, is having the confidence to actually follow my own recipe with it, if you like, rather
Yeah.
than trying to push my square peg into a round hole and try and fit into other organizations that are, for the accreditation or whatever. I decided to actually just follow my feeling on how I wanted to do it. And in so doing, I've developed a slightly different way and a different style because it felt better to me because I work very much in the body. And so it was having that confidence, I think. And, that's been an issue all the way through my life about various different things and not finding my voice, not speaking up, not saying actually this is what I want to do and just
Yeah.
going with majority. And then it kind of bled over into the business. And so that was the biggest challenge that I overcame. And again, I used my tools and got over it, made a decision, and, yeah, I've never looked back.
It's quite easy, isn't it? We can have all of these tools and almost it's not that we forget that we've got them, but often when you're working with them, you can kind of forget that, yeah,
Yeah.
they work on me too, and I can I can use them. And actually, even as a practitioner, sometimes you have to reach out to another practitioner, so there's that distance and they can kind of see things that you can't
Yeah.
necessarily see.
Mm.
I love the fact that with your approach, you've got your training and your accreditation and your academy, but in addition, you have free resources as well, don't you? So there's the ability for people to follow things with your daily tap
Yeah.
on a regular basis, so they can kind of have that hint of a daily boost. How
Mm.
did you come up with the idea for the daily tap, and how did that evolve?
That's a great question. If anybody's listening, if you know Kate Spencer in the Life and Soul Academy, I was in her Life and Soul Academy as a guest expert, and I was doing a bit of tapping in there. And somebody mentioned something about Christmas, and that was literally right at the start of starting to build it up alongside a full-time job. And so I thought, okay, if I could do like a festive frazzle tap. And so every day up till Christmas, I very meekly and very quietly went live on Facebook, just with my phone on like, a shell. And I did a little festive tap about, I don't know, whatever the subject was, my family's annoying me, wherever it was,
Yeah.
different one every day. to try and cater to give people a sample. And everybody loved it so much that they begged me to carry it on. They were like, please don't stop. I need this. It's like keeping me sane. So I'm like, yeah, me too, actually. So I carried it on, literally just carried it on after I think I had Christmas and Boxing Day off. And then the 27th of December, I was back on Facebook going, morning, doing doing the daily tap again. And it just carried on like that. And that's 9 years or more now that I've done it for free.
Wow. 9 years. Incredible. What a library you must have in there.
Yeah, it's going to take me a while to get it over onto YouTube.
I bet.
Yeah.
So there's different ways that you can access EFT. You could do it through a therapist or practitioner. You could follow videos online, or you could learn the technique and, use your own wording.
Yeah.
If people are completely new to it, obviously I would recommend the Daily Tap as a fantastic way to kind of introduce you to it. But what would you say is the distinction between when you should search out for a trained practitioner as
Mm.
opposed to when you could learn the technique and, go for it yourself?
So you can get a lot of really good results tapping on your own because of the way tapping works in the body. What I say is that the tapping does the heavy lifting, and it helps your body to let go of, tension and stress and emotions linked to things that upset you naturally. And you don't necessarily even have to talk about it. You can do it without language. But what I would say is if you are struggling and you keep bumping up against the same things, there's patterns, there's limiting beliefs, there's things that you're holding yourself back from being, doing, or having, or whatever, or you're suffering emotionally. The problem is that when we lead with our conscious mind, when we're doing it on our own, our thinking mind is leading the way. And unfortunately, 95% of what we do is on autopilot, right? So to keep you safe, it'll route you to Edinburgh via Land's End. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
sends us on a merry dance. So if you're doing it and you're not getting any traction, it's likely because there's something in there that doesn't feel safe to address. And when you're working with a practitioner and they're leading you around, your subconscious relaxes a little bit more because you're not thinking what to say. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yeah.
And so that's the beautiful kind of like synergy of working with somebody and also because they can join the dots when often you can't on your own,
Yeah.
not to say that you can't get great results. You absolutely can. If there's trauma there, if there's, patterns, addictions, things like that, it's always a good idea to work with somebody because they can keep you, or they should be able to keep you emotionally safe as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. And in terms of personally, do you find that obviously EFT tends to be your go-to
Yeah.
if you've had something come up, or are there other techniques that you also employ?
Um, I mean, I don't know if it's considered a technique, but actually, yoga has become a firm favorite of mine because of the way that it makes me feel when honestly, it's so grounding and so good for the body. But if we're talking about techniques specifically for me, it's visualization. And I bring in color as well. Because if you bring in color, it actually helps to connect the left and right hand sides of the brain. So that helps to reconsolidate memories, which is great for trauma without even having to talk about it, right? So I like to imagine a nice mist of color and breathe it in, and it's very soothing. I also do what I call vagal break breathing. So it's a way of breathing in for 4 and then out for 6 or 8. So because you have a longer breath, it brings you out of like freeze mode, what you get in sometimes
Okay.
where you just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I do tapping and vagal break breathing and bring color in. Sometimes I'll have people imagine a landscape that represents how they feel. And then as they tap, they'll see the landscape change because the mind is really, really powerful. So I harness that as well. It's not like just tapping on meridians because we want this to be on board as well. The conscious mind, she says, pointing at her forehead, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. So it can work as kind of a group of
Yeah.
practices that all
Yeah.
kind of complement each other. But actually, you find that EFT crux that kind of brings everything together
Yeah.
and moves you forward and your clients forward.
Yeah, 100%, particularly for meditation and mindfulness, because if you're trying to meditate and you've got a busy mind, good luck with that. And we all know the feeling, don't we, where we're like, I really need to do this. I really need to relax. And you can't because this thing's, whizzing around. one of the things that tapping does is it slows your brain waves down, it calms you down, brings you into relaxed awareness, which is the perfect place, jumping off point, to then do mindfulness or meditation. So what I do is tapping for me is step one. No matter what else I'm going to do, it's step one, because it gets you into that centered, regulated place to then be able to do everything else and it have a fantastic effect.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I can completely relate to that. Not so much now, not so much since I've been using this technique, but I have tried meditation in the past and
Mm.
really struggled with it for exactly that reason. I've got
Yeah.
so much going on. I'm trying to hold on to things.
Yeah.
Almost, it's they say just thank the thought and let it go. But actually, I'm like, no, but I don't want to let it go because I need to remember to do that as soon as I've finished.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful that EFT can give you that. What would you say then sets this technique apart from other ones that you've tried or other practices
Mm.
you've tried?
So putting my sort of teacher hat on for a minute, just to explain why, you tend to find that a lot of treatments, techniques, modalities come into one of two groups. Either they're talk based, cognitive based, like CBT, therapy, counseling, coaching, that kind of thing. It's using talking and working with the conscious mind and mindset. Or there's somatic tools like breathing, like sound healing, like all the other stuff that work purely in the body. EFT uses both, and it puts them together like the most beautiful jigsaw that fits completely perfectly. I actually call it the secret side door to healing, because we're not just using top down approaches and we're not just using bottom up approaches of the body. We're plugging them in together for the most magnificent effect ever. And that, to me, it's, if you can get the conscious mind on board, which is one of the hardest things to do, because we're wired to run away from pain, not towards pleasure, right? So it's almost like pushing treacle up a hill. If you can get that on board, as well as soothe the sort of icky feelings and the leftover emotions in the body, you're onto a winner as far as I can see. And that's why I've pursued it, because when you know how to do it properly, it just becomes addictive and your body goes, oh, thank God, give me some more of that, please. So
Yeah, definitely. So if you were to give some advice to someone looking into this technique, how would you suggest that they start?
so I would say that you would benefit greatly from finding some resources that can tell you how it works in the body. Because once you understand how it works in the body, you're more likely to do it anyway, because like you'll recognize the times when it's going to have an effect. And I would start simply. So either tapping with no words, just learn the points, or learn one point like under the collarbones or side of the hand, and just start there. You can tap without words. You don't have to have a script. But the biggest thing that's going to make the impact for anybody is to do it every day, possibly a couple of times a day. If you can do it when you get up in the morning, like, I'm pointing to my long hair for anyone who's listening. Um, if you're in the shower and you're a female, usually speaking, you'll put conditioner on your hair. Maybe not, but a lot of them do. So that's a couple of minutes of dead space. So you
Yeah.
can tap without words. If you're making a drink, you've probably got 60 seconds for the kettle to boil or something like that, and then a couple of minutes while it brews. 5 if you're like me and you like builder's tea. So you've got some time to tap, right?
Yeah.
But if you do it when you get up and before you go to bed, the differences that you will find in your sort of average stress set point on a daily basis, it's absolutely phenomenal, because it gives you more window of tolerance, i.e., if you're walking around an 8 out of 10 stressed most days, you've got very little wiggle room for something to make you
Yeah.
knock you off
Just
perch,
trigger you and off you go. Yeah.
like a bottle of pop. Whereas when you do tapping every day, even if you don't know what to tap on, even if you're not saying anything, your body still knows what to release. And it will gradually bring that stress set point down, which means you've got more space before you hit your roof, and you also recover faster from stressful things. Not
Yeah.
to mention that it improves your immune function by 60% and all these other amazing things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Fantastic. And it's so quick. It's not something that you're having to build in a massive amount of time. As
no.
you said, you can kind of build it around other things that you're doing.
Mhm.
And just in those few minutes, as you say, I often find kind of even after the first 2 or 3 points, my body is already relaxing. And it's like, I know what she wants now. This is my time to relax. Yeah, I can have a reset moment,
Yeah.
and that's wonderful. So is there anything else that you'd be interested in looking into going forward? Because obviously now you're in this environment where I'm sure you're aware of lots of techniques I've not even heard of. Is there anything you're currently looking into or have tried out recently?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It's almost as if you're in my head, Sarah, because I put a little taster or a teaser on Facebook yesterday that I was thinking about something new, which is mudras. So like finger position in yoga, coupled because each of them do a different thing and they work with different emotions and states and whatever, and combining that with EFT. So that's an EFT specific one that I would love to do. But for me personally, because I have a lot of back problems and um, I'm all right in the day, but when I lay down at night, it feels like my back's going to snap. It's horrible. And so I do lots of things for it, like yoga and whatever pain relief and massage and stuff and chiropractic. But I recently was reminded about the Bowen technique and I've heard amazing things about it. And there's somebody within about an hour of here. So that's on my list big time. And so is some kinesiology, actually, some proper like applied kinesiology, because that will tell you everything you need to know about your body. I just need someone to do it for me. Because again, when you do it with yourself, your conscious mind, sometimes will tell you what you want to hear.
Yes, yeah. Oh, exciting. Oh, well, I will definitely be looking into some of those techniques as well then and see if I can find out some more information. But I hope that they help you
Thank
in
you.
your wellness journey. Have you got any big wins you'd like to share from your journey with using any of these techniques?
Yeah, yeah, actually, I think the very most recent thing is about weight loss. So I've been overweight since I was 7 or 8, and I've battled it my entire life. And when I say battle, I mean verge of an eating disorder when I was 13 or 14, eating very much at all, yo-yo dieting, Atkins, you name it, I've done it. And I would always do it from a place of punishment. And so whatever anybody thinks of Slimming World, that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've been there, I think it's 3, 4 months now, and I'm doing it purposefully very slowly so that it's not like big losses all the time because I want it to be sustainable. But do you know what? Having used tapping around body image and self-acceptance and whatever, not weight loss, but self-acceptance, it's been an absolute joy. An absolute joy. I don't punish myself. I don't get narky if I maintain or put on, or I don't, I'm not limiting myself. I'm finding it really easy. I'm enjoying it. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd hear myself saying that, to be quite honest, because it's just been such a battle for 40 years.
Yeah.
But now, like, I can honestly say, hand on heart, I can see the end in sight now. I know it's
Yeah.
going to.
So that's been the combination of the two, the Slimming World plus the EFT.
Yeah.
Had we tried Slimming World before, for example, and it not
5
worked?
times, and I would come to a grinding halt at about a stone off. And I'd go all guns blazing and it'd be all great. And then the second that I maintain or put on, I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. Meh. And then, but this time I've just been like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Half a pound off. Great. Fine.
Yeah.
It is
So
what
it's
it is. And
completely shifted things with
totally.
using the EFT has resulted in
Yeah.
another thing working really well.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing is I actually didn't tap on losing weight.
Yeah.
I tapped on accepting myself either way. And
Right.
that's the beauty of it. So sometimes you don't even have to tap on a specific thing or like something you want to get rid of. You can tap on something that feels really good and empowering, and the unwanted behavior or situation can just fall away. It doesn't have to be painful. And it's reminded me as well about my own practice of tapping, that it really doesn't have to be this, "Oh, I need to get rid of this thing." It's not like that. It's just, yeah, I want to be loving to myself. I haven't for a very long time. I've been horrible to myself. And I'm not doing it anymore, you
And I
know?
guess that's a different layer, isn't it? I mean, we can all have a shopping list of things that we want to. I want to be fitter. I want to weigh less.
Yeah.
I want to manifest money or a house or a car or a relationship or something like that. We can all have this massive list, but it's actually what's happening underneath.
Yeah.
And once you tackle that, it can often have
Yeah.
that positive effect on the rest. So
Absolutely, 'cause it's
congratulations for your weight loss. And for
Yeah.
everything that you've been achieving along the way. It sounds fascinating. And thank you so much for sharing all of your insights into EFT and beyond. If people wanted to contact you or find out more information about EFT or your services, what would be the best way?
The best way probably is to head over to my huge 9-year plus vault of information on my Facebook page. I'll do it on other places, but that's got the longest repository. So it's facebook.com/evolved energetics. And you'll find me on there. There's 9 years plus of in the videos tab of daily taps, and you can just have a go. And, you can message me through there or whatever. But I do have a free guide as well that I give out to people, which is me talking you through how to do it. And you can see the guide and the script on screen. So it's called Seven
Lovely.
Steps to Calm. It's my very first freebie that I ever created. And I still love it to this day because it's just dead simple, you
It
know.
sounds perfect for people to give it a go. I'll make sure that we put relevant links in the show notes. So if anyone wants to follow that, then that would be great. But thank you so much, Emma. I've really enjoyed our chat today. It's been very enlightening. It's reminded me to go back and relook at my approach as well, building in some more daily opportunities to tap from my personal perspective. Thank you.
See ya.
So, I hope Emma's journey has sparked your curiosity about EFT. Remember, wellness techniques for emotional healing don't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's about finding simple, accessible tools like this one that you can weave into your day or whenever you need. You can find out more about Emma's free resources, including her daily tap videos, on her Facebook page, Evolved Energetics, and a link to her 7 Steps to Calm in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend who might benefit. Until next time, I'm Sarah, and remember, there's many paths to wellness, and sometimes they start with tapping into what your body and mind need.